Today we are doing an incredible video on twin flame telepathy. This is like the weirdest and most interesting topic on the twin flame journey. So stay tuned because we're going to talk about a lot of things. It's probably going to be a pretty long video, so you'll definitely want to watch it to the end. If you can't watch it to the end, be sure to save it so you can come back to it. Let's get into the video. So we're talking about twin flame telepathy today. We're letting you know everything that you need to know on the twin flame journey when it comes to telepathy. Now, keep in mind, most of the things that I talk about are from either my experiences or experiences of other twin flames that I have worked with. So when I'm gathering information for a video, it is because this is something that's been coming up big for my clients, or this is something that has come up big for myself. So I'm always speaking from some sort of personal experience, whether it's my direct personal experience or a personal experience of someone I actually know. So twin flame telepathy is a very interesting thing because let's first talk about telepathy just in general, okay? And I want to talk about it from the perspective of we all have different gifts, especially if you're on a twin flame journey. You are going to be somebody who is very tuned in, most likely, to the collective, to what's going on, to yourself. And that means that usually comes with having some sort of gift. So you might identify as a starseed, a light worker. You might identify as a highly sensitive person or an empath. You might identify as just somebody weird and out there, right? The lone wolf. You might identify as any number of these things. But with all of that, I want to talk about basically there's different types of psychic intuitive gifts, right? And so if you haven't heard this already, there's a few different types of ones, right? So we have clairaudience, which is clairaudience is the ability to hear voices or hear messages in your mind. Claircognizance is just a clear knowing. So when it's one of those things where you don't have any proof why something is the way that it is, but you just know, like you just know in your heart that's what it is. That's claircognizance. My mom actually had this very strongly, but she didn't know that that's what it was. But she would always say, oh, I can feel it in my bones. And so she was very claircognizant, but we didn't really have words for it as a kid when I was growing up. Like she just knew things. And then you have clairsentience, which I have very strong clairsentience, so I can feel the emotions of other people or sometimes even the physical ailments of other people. So if you are a big feeler, you can feel what's going on for others. That is clairsentience. Then we also have, of course, telepathy, and I think that's all of them. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing one, but essentially this is what we're looking at, okay, is these different types of psychic intuitive abilities. And the reason why it's so important, so if you haven't done this already, try and figure out which ones you have or which ones are your strongest, because your twin flame telepathy is likely going to come in whatever flavor you have most, right? So let's say you're somebody who hears messages, then likely you're going to get downloads and hear messages about your twin flame more often than anything else. Where, like me, if you're clairsentience, you might be able to feel their energy with you, or you might be able to feel their emotion, right? And so for each twin flame and each twin flame pairing, this is going to look a little bit different, which is why I think a lot of times twin flame telepathy videos can be so confusing, or they might point you in a bunch of different directions because people aren't taking into account that we are humans, okay? And not every human experiences reality in the exact same way. So I'll give you some examples also of twin flame telepathy that I had before I came into union and then after I came into union, because they have kind of shifted and changed. And so this is the other thing about twin flame telepathy. It's going to give you whatever you need in the moment, okay? Spirit and the universe, they know that this is a challenging journey. They know that this is tough. So any insights or inspirations or downloads that you get from the universe through your twin flame telepathy about like what might be going on with your twin, that is because it's the most pertinent for you on your journey right now, okay? And one thing that we talk about really strongly in my group, Twin Flame Path to Awakening, which if you would like to get on the application list for our next round launching in April 2025, please sign up down below. We are now taking applications. We are only looking for 8 spots. So apply now while you can. We'll review your application. But this is an amazing, incredible opportunity where you can grow, learn, and share with other twin flames who are truly on the same aligned path as you. And our beta testers cannot say anything better about this program. They've just told us time and time again what a safe container it is, how the healing and the transformation has really taken place. So I just want to take a moment to thank them for, believing in us, and thank them for taking a risk and being our beta testers. And the second round is completely new and improved based on the things that they wanted you guys to experience more of. So yeah, super, super exciting. So if you want to get on the roster, apply down below. First come, first serve. And we're only looking for 8 spots. So the thing that's really important to keep in mind here with this, okay, is that it's going to come up what's the most pertinent in your journey right now, okay? And when something comes up, when you get a download from Spirit, the universe, about your twin flame, this message is for you and for you alone, okay? We so often, and I was guilty of this in the past majorly with my karmic relationship especially. So we might be having conflict with our twin, or something might be coming up. We get a download on like what's going on for them, or what they need to work on, or where they're in the wrong, or something like that. And we instantly want to share our download with them, and we want to tell them like, look, this is what you're messing up. This is what you're going through. But the really important thing about twin flame telepathy is you are getting downloads for you on your journey. If that download was important for them to know, they will also get that download. This is where trust comes in. We oftentimes want to put our fingers in their business because we want to make sure they're doing the work. We want to make sure, that they know what their wounds are and they know what they need to heal. But that's another ego trap of us putting our power outwards instead of claiming our power within, okay? So if you are getting a twin flame telepathic message, know that that is yours to hold. Now, I'm not saying don't take action on it. If you sit with that, you meditate with it, and you truly feel that the most aligned thing for you to do is reach out to them, or the most aligned thing for you to do is to speak to them about it and communicate, 100% you should do this. This is not me saying don't act on the downloads that you get. This is just me saying make sure you hold them and internalize them and process them before you go about pointing fingers or doing things like that, right? It's important for us to hold that energy before we try and give it back out. And so with twin flame telepathy, one of the really interesting things is it will shift and change over time, like we said. So a lot of the twin flame telepathy that I experienced, of course, apart from signs and synchronicities, because that can also be very linked to twin flame telepathy. A lot of times I had dreams of my twin flame when I was in separation. I also would have like major times where I felt like he was just sitting right next to me, I almost didn't even have to like reach into his energy. And this was always especially like when I was falling asleep. Like I would always just feel like his entire energy, like his whole body just like pressed up against me when I was going to sleep. And then the other thing that I felt really strongly when we were in separation was his emotions. Like I could send him a text message, and we had like an 8-hour time difference. So I could send him a text message, and then by the time he responded, like I could already feel the emotion, like right before he even responded, like I already knew what the emotion was going to be, or what was going to come out of that that interaction. So that for me was the strongest. So I had a lot of clairsentience. I didn't have I'm not super clairaudient. So what's really interesting for me is when I'm working with a twin flame, or I'm working with a client, like a twin flame client, and they are very clairaudient, I will receive clairaudient messages like almost on their behalf. And this I find super interesting because I'm very intuitive. So I will kind of mirror or adapt to how I work based on what my client does. So I've had a few clients that are very clairaudient, and then I will receive downloads in my ear or messages because like that's how their spirit or higher self communicates with them. And so that's really cool for me to experience, is like these different psychic and intuitive abilities based on whoever it is I'm working with. Now, the same might be true for you with your twin flame, right? So keep in mind, you might get certain messages that aren't normally how you would receive them, because that's how your twin flame would receive them, okay? So a lot of times in this respect, we would question ourselves, or we would doubt the messages coming in because it's not normally how we would receive the download, right? Like if you're a clairsentient person and all of a sudden you're hearing messages, you're going to start doubting yourself because that's not how you know how to use your gifts. But I'm here to tell you, it's time to start trusting your intuition deeper. This is a clear sign to start trusting your intuition deeper and to start listening to whatever it is that you're either feeling, experiencing, knowing, seeing, whatever it is, hearing, whatever it is, start listening to it and writing it down in a journal, and then noticing whether that thing came to fruition or whether that came back up for you. Because that's really important work to do, especially on the twin flame journey. Now, what's really interesting is as things have evolved and changed, I've been in my twin flame union now for I think 3-ish years, 3+ years. And so what's really interesting now is my twin flame telepathy is so practical. And sometimes it's very catalyzing in terms of like if I think a certain way about myself that's somewhat negative or is a wound, I will think it, and then instantly my twin flame will say it, and I'll get so triggered by it and I'll get so angry because I'm like, it was almost like I was just waiting for him to say it. And because of course he's the perfect mirror, he somehow senses it in the twin flame telepathy atmosphere, and he just like literally blurts it out. And then I'm like seeing a light shined right on my wound, right on my shadow, and I'm like, you know, like, how could you, you know? And it's not even like, a lot of times we're not even conscious of the ways that we're connected with our twin flames because it's so intuitive, right? So that's one of the really interesting things about twin flame telepathy is you don't have to actively know that you're participating in it in order for it to happen. And that's one of the weirdest parts is your twin flame can be completely unconscious, but they speak exactly to whatever it is that you need to hear in that moment. So especially with me, when I have a wound or a shadow aspect and my twin flame speaks to it and then I get triggered, it's like an alert bell is going off and it's saying, hello, 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 look at me, there's something to look at there, there's something to give love to there. And then of course I'll automatically think like, oh, are you judging me? Are you shaming me? Are you blaming me? And he's like, no, of course I'm not. I'm just mentioning this one thing. And then I realize that it's because I'm shaming, blaming, or judging myself. So that's kind of how it's been working now. Then also one of the really cool things that has been happening since we are in union and work together a lot is the twin flame telepathy of like something that I need, he will instantaneously get, okay? Now this doesn't happen in every scenario. So granted, there are definitely times where we need to have our own personal clear communication. But what will a lot of times happen is I'm very highly sensitive. So things like temperature, sound, like external stimulus can be a lot for me. So a lot of times what will happen is I'll be coming into the kitchen or I'll be sitting down and my twin flame's watching the TV. And this is such a practical thing, but I'll come sit down and then I'm sitting there for a couple minutes and then he just randomly decides to turn the TV down a few notches. And it's like, I was thinking in my mind, oh wow, the TV's loud. And it's kind of like, you know, not triggering, but it's kind of like just a little bit too much for me. And then he'll intuitively like turn the TV down. So it's like very much things for my comfort, which I feel like is very divine masculine in nature. It's like, you know, he's really looking out for my comfort. And then same thing is like if I get into the car and sometimes the air is too cold, then he'll kind of like turn the air back into like a better temperature just because. And it's literally, the funny part is you're like, oh, well, he could just know that that's about you. And it's not like that. It's like literally I'm thinking it. The moment I think it, he takes the action to turn it. So it's almost like I have another set of hands and arms and eyes and like everything like that, because it's like as soon as I think it, the action is already happening. So that's why twin flame telepathy is so interesting, because a lot of times we think like, oh, well, maybe they just know me, or maybe they're just sensing that. But it's literally like, okay, I literally just thought that, and as I was thinking it, he turned it down. So I think that's pretty interesting. But let me know in the comments below what you guys have experienced on twin flame telepathy. Again, so many people experience this so differently because we're all unique humans. So I would love to know your experiences and what's been coming up for you. And of course, as always, if you have questions, put them down below. Have you experienced twin flame telepathy with your twin flame? If so, what has it been like for you? And like I said before, if you want to get on our roster for Twin Flame Path to Awakening, please apply now. We're only taking applications from February to the end of March. So yeah, thanks so much for being here today. We love to see it, and we'll see you next time. Big love. Serena.